Greetings, everyone. Hello, and welcome to our live Wednesday morning or afternoon, depending on where you are, Q&A with Ashala and my dear friend, Sue Grockmill. Hi, Sue. Welcome back.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays. How was your holidays?
It was good. It was busy, whirlwind for
Was
sure.
it?
Yeah. Lots of preparing, and then it's fast how it goes. But
And then it's over so fast.
before
Yeah.
Christmas, yeah. So it was
Well,
nice. It felt like a good celebration energy, like we talked about. So that was lovely. That was
oh,
good.
that's
And
so
so
great to hear.
yeah.
I heard from people that it was very intimate this year. A lot of people were just
hmm
with one or two friends or family members.
hmm
And I feel like that could be related to two things. One is that we, of course, as I think I said before, we had our holidays strangely lined up with the weekends. So a lot of people didn't
Right.
get very much time off because, when Christmas falls in the middle of the week, you get days on either side, plus you get your usual weekends off. So
Yep.
yeah, it was I think a little bit shorter for a lot of people, and therefore more like just poignant, like they just really wanted to be with their closest people and not going to a big effort of getting, traveling far and doing a lot of that. I also have heard from people that there was somewhat less indulging this year
hmm
and a
hmm
little bit more just really appreciating the simpler blessings
hmm
of life.
A little more meaningful and buying.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people buying experiences, like a day pass to snowboard or to the mountains or this or that. More experiences than just things that everybody knows, that it's like, I don't know, everyone has everything.
Yeah.
Excuse me, for the most part. So
Very interesting. Very
mhm.
interesting. Obviously, we know that lots of us and mainstream people as well are feeling like they're just holding back, spending a lot of money.
Mhm.
And I think that's actually a good thing. Um, while I'm speaking about that, I just want to let everyone know that yeah, I feel like there was a bit of a delay with my sale as well, and I'm hearing from people that they missed out on having the discount. So I've decided to just extend it for another week because I won't have another one for several months. So I've put the coupon code below here, which is White Light. You get 25% off, and it's extended till January 1st. So if you would like to yeah, jump into that. Consider it like a Boxing Week sale and extension. Let's go to what is on the table today in terms of questions. I've been shuffling this whole time.
So
Let's
Laura
bring it.
says, "Happy solstice, full moon.
Oh,
What
yeah.
changes can we expect with this shift?" Great question.
All right. Let's have a look at that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, full moon in Cancer happens this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
Usually somewhere around the Christmas season. Interestingly, this year, almost right on Christmas Day. And the full moon, obviously, I've spoken about before. It's about this energy of almost like an external energy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the new moons are like internal focus. The full moons are out in a worldly kind of focus.
Okay.
However, there's a couple of full moons that are very internal, and Cancer is one of them. So the sign of Cancer is about home, family, in a way, kind of emotional protection. Because if you think about the Cancer as the crab and it likes to hide in its shell. So there
Um,
could be a little bit of us all sort of, even though it's full moon energy, which creates a huge kind of frequency upgrade, it's also a very sort of, I don't know, hiding out a little bit and being private. So those are the two things that I'm noticing, and the fact that it lined up very, very close to Christmas, um, which it, as I said before, it often does, but this year feels extra potent. Um, Schuman Resonance. Yeah, I feel like we're going to look into that. Good morning, Carmen.
Human, yeah.
Uh, we're going to look into that as well with this particular answer. Oh my goodness. Okay, Schumann resonance and solar activity. We've got the sun here. So full moon, but even almost like overriding everything feels to me like a lot of solar activity. And
Okay.
heart expansion, the joy factor. So even though we may feel or think that there's a lot to be anxious about, a
Mm-hmm.
lot to protect ourselves from,
Mm-hmm.
um, in small personal situations, people are more open than they've been for probably years. Like I'm getting almost like we've done a kind of full circle recovery from the whole pandemic. There's something has happened this Christmas season that is about reconnecting us emotionally in a kind of personal uh, intimacy, and also reconnecting us with the trajectory we were on just before the pandemic started. Fascinating. I'm being shown we're actually going back to that time. I
Right.
wouldn't be surprised if there's some planets retrograding that are taking us right to that juncture.
Right.
So the March 2020, by March of 2024, we've realigned, we've evolved so much, right? We've gone through so much personal growth, so much, deepening our perspective of what reality is really all about, and about, these power dominant models that have had us sort of under lock and key and under spell for a lot of
Yep.
millennia, really.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and now it's almost like we got really pulled off our trajectory, and we are aligning back on as of this winter solstice, and especially the full moon, which was basically yesterday. We are
Right.
back on track, bringing with us all that we have learned and earned, the guides are saying, from the last 3.5, close to 4 years.
Wow.
Whoa, look at that.
Cosmic connection or no?
Cosmic connection. Cosmic connection. Um, yeah, there's a lot of talk about ascension and frequency, and I always say it's not like a once you cross that line, you're there and you never you never go
Right.
anywhere else, or you have to do all this work to get to that point, and then you're in Shangri-La forever. It's always, to me, what I've understood is it is a frequency. It is like a resonance, and we can literally like fluctuate in and out of it at any given moment. So it isn't really a destination, it's a practice. Ascension is a practice, is what the
Yes.
guys are saying. It's a
Makes
practice.
sense. Yes. Yep.
And, the enlightened masters tried to tell us that over and over again. You know, they said, sort of as you live, you will be. And that's what you'll eventually be surrounded with. Okay, so there's that Four of Cups, which is a protection, emotional protection, staying sort of small and humble. We've got this little Page of Pentacles here. That's us right now. So the lesson is, you know, if you think about the meek shall inherit the earth, the meek shall match frequency with our star ancestors and the ascendant masters. So interesting, right? What does
Yeah.
that bring up for people? What does that bring up for you, Sue?
The star frequency. Can you say it again? So the star frequency.
So
Mhm.
the meek,
Yep.
Because this little guy here, he
Mhm,
is like the Page of Pentacles. He stays low to the ground. He stays humble. He's like a little hobbit. And well, it's interesting. You could use the Lord of the Rings metaphor really well here because, you know, like Gandalf works with the elves and all these other um, supposedly higher evolved beings,
mhm.
but the real most treasured quality that is given the greatest responsibility is the little hobbit, like the meek, really
Oh,
heart-centered.
yes, yep. Heart-centered, and I think, like, not overconfident, and I know, and you don't know, and it was just more like, "Hey, we're just navigating."
Way less easy to corrupt, way almost
It's kind of a
incorruptible.
childlike, almost like a childlike innocence is what comes up for
Yeah.
me. Yeah, like living in wonder, like, I wonder what's gonna happen next, and not demanding, needing to know,
Mhm.
and like what always comes up in my sessions is that follow the breadcrumbs.
Mhm. Yes.
We are not given all of it, so it's like follow the breadcrumbs. What's presenting for you, and it's like try,
Mhm.
walking in that kind of faith that there'll be another breadcrumb, and when it comes,
Mhm.
I'm going to recognize it and I'll follow it.
Interesting, Sue, because it reminds me of, I'm such an intellectual and an avid researcher and very, very curious with a huge imagination. And I've been following different versions of alternate history for like 40 years.
Okay,
And
yeah,
there
yeah,
was a time back in the first couple of decades of that. Yeah, actually, right up until about 10 to 15 years ago, there was a time where I was sure I was going to get to the final, like, I was going to
yeah,
solve the riddle. I was going to get all the information and
yeah,
put it all together, and I was going to, no,
and there it is.
I was
Yeah,
going to get it, right? I was going to be able to say,
yeah.
oh, I understand. Let me tell you, this is how it is. Of course, the deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper I got into my research, the more I realized, oh, this isn't actually about knowing. This is about uh, understanding, not understanding, but understanding the magnificence of it all. It's about like seeing the
Um,
extraordinary complexity and the deep weaves of things. And then, as you said, observing, like
mm-hmm,
following the little breadcrumbs, observing the patterns. It's one of the reasons why, at the beginning of the pandemic, I noticed that there were a lot of historians, two that jump to mind are Neil Oliver and David Startsky from the UK. Those guys have been doing
yeah,
it for a long time, and they both immediately saw through everything. Why did they see through everything? Do they know everything about everything? No, it's impossible. No historian
patterns. They
knows
saw the
everything. They
patterns.
saw patterns.
Yeah, I could
They
see that.
saw,
Yeah,
like, they were like, okay, this is a formula 99% in total frequency resonance, pattern resonance with these other things that have been done in the past, right?
yeah, I knew a soldier who was in Rwanda, and he was in Canada, and they were telling their psychiatrist, there was a group of them saying, this is what we saw there.
Yeah,
This is the
exactly.
same pattern.
They see the pattern, right? So they're
Mhm,
not making, absolute statements about any of it. They're just saying, beware, watch. If this keeps going that way, we know what's going on.
mhm,
So again, it's the
mhm,
humbleness of, again, I go back to the Hobbit story, how did they get through Mordor? It was almost like through their own sort of innocence and fumbling,
mhm,
they just kept following, as you say, the breadcrumbs. They were like, okay, we can't do this, so we got to do that. Um, and they didn't have a big plan. They didn't have a big, like, this is how we're going to do it. They just knew they had to show up and make the journey and stay in their hearts. So it's a message in a way. And again, Gandalf and all the highest order of druidic type wizards were completely in awe of their innocence and their incorruptibility, and said themselves, if we were in that position, we would not be incorruptible. Think about that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
These supposedly highly evolved beings said if we were given the option of that power, given all that we know,
Mm-hmm.
it would be less effortless for us to resist the temptation of
Right.
corruption.
Right. That's
Wow.
the
And they
danger.
knew
That's the
that.
danger of thinking you know or have to know. I have all this information. I know, so you don't. And then we're
It-
not open to anything, not
It's the
open to the
danger
mystery
of
either.
living up in this high, heady, disconnected
Mhm.
from, like, I always say, the physical body, this is a message for all of us right now. The physical body is, in a way, your most accurate technology. It gives
Yes.
you accurate information on everything.
Mhm.
Your subconscious, the observable patterns going on around you, these systems have been, fashioned by the creator to allow us to exist in this 3D paradigm and have such a rich life experience through our senses. And we've developed through eons of living in close relationship with the natural world and all of the creator's creations. We've developed these extraordinary systems that no technology, as far as I'm concerned, can match. No technology can do better than what we have. However, we've been tricked into not believing in it and not trusting in it and not listening to it and not learning how to work with it, understand it, and truly operate from this place of
Because we keep them
naturalness.
taken into the mind, into the mind, into the mind, right?
Mhm.
Learning more, taking in more information. If I know I'll be safe or
Yeah.
whatever. So it's always about tuning out.
There's also a huge message in this that relates back to the question about the Schuman resonance, about solstice, about the full moon, sorry. There's a huge message in this about discernment. So we are, in a way, and this actually came up in a reading that I did yesterday, which was about someone looking at promoting um, a project, a product. I have so many clients that are in different stages of developing, working with different, amazing healing technologies or different projects that they're working with, humanitarian projects and so on. And a lot of them are struggling with how to market and share what they're doing. And it seems like when they go down the old avenues of, the Tony Robbins kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
uh, how to see yourself in that position and how to like project based on what your goals are and all of those kind of aspects that we used to. Well, it was a transitional phase. We had to learn how to operate through those kind of systems. However, it's almost like there's this is what I was shown yesterday, and I'm seeing it again here today. There's a bullshit meter that's starting to, like, and it's not about bullshit.
Oh,
It's not about intentional bullshit. It's
yeah.
about like people are just starting to get this inner meter that's going, no, that's going all over the place. That
That
doesn't,
doesn't resonate anymore. That doesn't work. Used to, and in this situation, but that's just not working anymore. Worked here, but it doesn't work here. Works in an old paradigm, but the new paradigm just doesn't seem to fit anymore.
and this is why we're anxious, because we're like, okay, where's my meter of truth?
Right.
It's
This is
just
what I
going
used
like
to
woo,
always
woo, woo,
do,
woo,
right? Here's my
right?
tool. It's not working. Yeah.
So how you access the new meter of truth is not through the brain of the intellect being convinced. It's like a really good sales pitch, a really good, yeah, you look, you've got your Instagram profile all dialed and everything is just like
Yeah.
perfectly
Yeah.
polished.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't have the deep inner tech technology
Mm-hmm.
and authentic integrity, it won't actually hold the frequency. It won't hold that resonance. And there's going to be a lot more discernment. People are right now, they're feeling quite, I want to say, protective and
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, and that's that full moon in Cancer. But I would say within 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to see a lot of discernment coming forward. And what's important to do with discernment,
Mm-hmm.
this is where everybody could take a page from the Gemini playbook, because this is what Gemini does very well.
What?
We basically take in all kinds of information,
Yeah.
like data synthesis, but we're not attached to a single line of um, opinion, or well, this is the truth. Well, I would say perhaps younger, less evolved Geminis do get very attached to their opinions and get into a lot of arguments about them. But as we mature as Geminis, we understand that it isn't about proving something. It's not just this scientific method. It's about observing the big picture. It's about observing patterns. So when you go to your discernment to almost like navigate with your let's not call it a BS meter, let's call it an integrity meter or an alignment meter, right? As you're maneuvering along and you're getting all this, like things are going wobbly, it's really important not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, not to say, you know what, okay, I'm not listening to that person anymore. They're full of it. They don't know what they're talking about. I don't feel that sense of integrity with them anymore. You know, they're right now, they may not be holding exactly what you need to keep going in an integral way. But it doesn't mean they may not come back into frequency the next day, even. So it isn't about, I keep always saying to my students, it's not about the messenger, it's about the message. It's about the message.
Right.
So, obviously, we're going to tune out from people that the message just isn't resonating anymore, or it's like more often we're getting this mixed signal and we're like, okay, I'm going to tune away. But it's not about, we don't have to like string them up and accuse them of whatever. It's like, you just don't know. Maybe 6 months from now, they're going to be right on and like fully in alignment. So it's like the guides are saying, don't kill the messengers, people. The messengers, most of them are doing their very best.
That's a good point, and I think we were all really quick to put people up on pedestals and make them the be all and end all. And as soon as they were off a beat or in your mind or perception, it was like, how we just let them fall,
Yeah.
and how unfair. Like none of us are perfect. There was a situation with a reporter who didn't go to the 4 men that are in jail here in Alberta. And it was Pastor Art that stood up and said, he's one man. What are the rest of you doing? Are you doing, like, are you going out to do newscasting, and are you going out there to
Yeah,
cover this? And so it was like, if you didn't like what he was doing, it was like he's one person. And it
exactly.
was like, well, it was so
Exactly.
easy for people to shift blame, and it kind of got to be
Mm,
really kind of groupthink, right? And
mm-hmm.
so anyway,
And
so I'm gonna
the
say here, go ahead.
the beautiful thing is we can look forward to more natural discernment that doesn't come with that heavy-handed, like, off with their heads kind of like
Right.
it's either the truth or it's not the truth. It's like
That's black and
how
white thinking, right?
yeah, it's like how in resonance with where your evolution is going is that message right now. And if it is not, you just steer a little away. You don't need to go like tear that down and throw that in the garbage and never look
The
back.
torches, right? That's it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
totally,
Yeah,
totally.
for sure. So Laura's saying spot on, Ashella. It's like the inner voice volume dial got turned up a notch or two. And
Yeah.
Ricky's saying that he's a Gemini. So No,
Oh, yeah.
no. Right on. Okay, so what I was going to ask about the sun then, like, so much is coming out about the sky and the
Mhm,
sun, and
mhm,
is the sun isn't the real sun, and there's more than one sun, and the sun's good for us, it's
mhm,
bad for us. What is going on with the sun? It's not the sun that we knew.
mhm,
So what's
mhm.
going on in the skies and with the sun and the solar
Totally.
flare and the solar flares, right? Like, so all this is like
Mhm,
coming out. Well, the solar flares are happening and they're bringing in light codes, or they're going to
mhm,
happen. And so there's been so much around the sun that I just don't really know anymore.
there we go. There's us not knowing, waiting.
uh,
Um, and what do we need to know? More waiting. Okay, so let's lay out all the cards here.
okay.
Yeah, so science, evidence, observing of patterns, acknowledging. I really feel a strong sense of the connection with weather patterns, tides. Like there's something almost like science doesn't quite have it right with the relationship between the sun and the moon and the tides. I feel like the sun is doing more with the tides than we've previously assumed. We thought the moon was, yeah, so the and um oh, look at that. So we've got waiting, two of swords, patience, seven of pentacles, proof is in the pudding kind of card. Like
Mm,
there's going to be more evidence based observation coming forward. Um, Over the next couple of years, we're going to be learning more of the deep mystery underlying the origins of suns. And it's very much about what I'm hearing is, it's so simple actually. What I'm hearing is sun is love. Sun is love.
what? Okay, so
Sun is
this
love.
sun is so good for us. Does it give us information?
Well, okay, but love always good for us?
That's interesting.
Oh, right? There's the devil. Okay, too much of anything, too much in the wrong way. Like we know the sun can be very harmful. Our sun can be very harmful. So there's something about, again, we don't want to put all
Discernment. Discernment, I would
discernment. It's
say. If you're
not,
starting to burn, you should probably get out of the sun.
yeah.
Hey,
And
if you're in a toxic relationship and you're given all this love, maybe that's not the place that it needs to go. Is that
yeah,
the idea?
yeah. Well, and what I'm being shown is that suns go through an evolutionary process just like everything else. The sun evolves, our earth evolves.
Right.
Galaxies evolve, star nations evolve. Um, and so there are different types. Well, I know for sure there's different types of suns. I remember uh, learning decades ago about the blue suns, the red suns, and the yellow suns. So we have a yellow sun. There are also blue suns and red suns. And if you think about blue, red, and yellow are the primary colors, um, there's something very distinct, and they combine to create the full spectrum of light. But the yellow sun, if you think about what the color yellow represents and where yellow falls in the chakra system, it's the power center. So in a yellow sun frequency, we are working with dynamics of power. So this is in a yellow sun uh, system that we are in.
Yeah.
Power, learning about power is a big part of what we are evolving with.
Learning to take back our power and power
Well,
dominant structure.
just about what happens with power. What happens when you try to manage it, control it? What happens when you're afraid of it and you try to push it away? What happens when you're addicted to it and you try to grab on and hold on
Right.
to it? Like all relationships, and how do you work with power and like open it up
Yep.
so that it does amazing things, but not too much, too fast, so that it just blows everything open. So we're working with power. We are all learning about power, and
Right.
that's why we've created all this wild scenario, right? Yeah.
Right. Okay, so Trish is asking, is it true we have a new sun? Was it replaced? It was replaced.
Okay, okay.
And so, yeah, that's a good question because I've heard all kinds of things too, Trish, and that's the kind of idea like it's not the sun that we had 10 years ago; it's a new sun. So,
Mhm.
so is this different? My understanding from the Palladian readings, it that the sun gives us information,
Mhm.
and then also that the sun is the closest thing we have to God here.
Yeah, that's what I mean about the sun is love. It's let's just say the sun is a grand catchment of love. It's like a grand cache. It's like a big gathering,
Yeah.
like I want to say portal, but it's like a big constellation of loving light energy, consciousness, loving light energy. So the question was, do we have the same sun?
Yeah,
I
maybe
already
shows
feel
about
like
the
I'm
cards and
already
the sun being replaced.
yeah, let's have a look. So, okay.
And then
I knew
Laura's
it. I had a feeling about this, but let's just oh yeah,
okay,
look at this.
because
Okay.
Laura's saying China made an announcement that they made one back when the illness started.
Oh yeah. Well,
Did China make it? Like
I
what?
mean, I don't want to say good luck, but our son was made in China typical.
Yeah, it's giving her a little
Okay,
kudos.
hold on though. Hold on,
Okay.
hold on, hold on. So, um,
Our son
I
was made in China. Typical.
go back to what I just said about
Mhm.
that we're here to learn about power.
Right.
Now, we know the sun generates power. We know that everything that is burned on the planet, so all the carbon forms that are burned, like trees, coal,
Mhm.
oil, everything that's burned and lights and combusts into flame
Yeah.
is basically the distillation of that potency of the sun's energy.
Right.
So the sun, in a way, is again, it's this constellation, like a gathering place for that consciousness of loving light. And it can be held in the darkness. It can be like sort of kept alive. Even if you can't see it, it's still there. And then something ignites it back into life. So when we talk about we're here on this planet in a yellow sun energy system, we are here to learn about power. So the sun generates power. It gives us heat. It gives us light. And all the power sources that we work with, including electricity, it's all about this energy of harnessing that light, that potent light and heat.
Yeah.
Um,
So Trish is
so
saying
the,
it's like it was rejuvenated.
Yeah, so when people are working with even nuclear power, for example, when people are working with harnessing power,
Yep.
they're learning about the almost like the potency and the beauty of power, but also the destructiveness of it. You know, we're trying to harness an energy that we don't understand, and if we're in an imbalanced frequency, what we're going to do with that energy will likely be destructive. So if China's making a sun,
Yep.
what they're doing is they're working on harnessing the energy of generation to produce a similar type of energy as the sun, but they're going to be generating something to
Right.
make that, which came originally from the sun. So basically, they're just creating a mock up model of the sun. Um, and they will learn from that experience what are the benefits of working on developing maybe complementary systems to the sun's power, but maybe, um, you know, challenging systems that are going to end up creating destruction. So they're going to
Mhm.
learn about
Mhm.
power by doing this experiment, just like people building nuclear power stations learn about power through the experimentation with working with power sources. So the original question was, oh my Lord, the original question was, do like, do we have the same sun that
Right.
we had? And what I'm being shown is that the sun changes. We have a new sun. Like they're having a hard time showing me the frequency of change. It could be nanoseconds. Like it literally reproduces itself regularly. Like we so you know how we have a new body every 7 years?
Yeah.
The sun is it's not something that's just there and always the same. So, think about it for a minute. If we are evolving and we're going through these relationships with power and in our own personal lives, inside of us, in our relationships, in our social systems, in our overall, paradigm on planet Earth, our human evolutionary consciousness, if we are going into really combative, power dominant models about stealing energy from each other and from the sun and all this kind of stuff. Well, the sun's frequency is matching where we are.
Right. Of course it is.
So it's going to like mirror in a way where our consciousness is. It's being but we could change that in a moment. It could be like fully in a beautiful golden age new paradigm.
Everything is in flux.
Everything
Okay.
is in flux.
Everything is in flux. But okay, so then it's like, well, the new earth paradigm. So I was going to say, so is that going to be what some people will see? Because this is what's been on my radar. Some people going to see this sort of new earth, the sun will change over here, and then these people, well, more like 12-minute cities in the medical paradigm, and so that's split. And so, maybe here the sun will be like this, and maybe here the sun will be like that. And is that possible? And is that just sort of like a different dimension, or what? And I just want to say that Laura is saying that Mother Earth no longer gives back the warmth of day, but at certain times of the morning, two suns are visible just before sunrise.
Mhm,
Crazy.
mhm, mhm. Okay, so I got a download about this while I was walking in the forest over the last week. I haven't had much time to do that, but I did a little walk and I got a download, and it was basically that when we see two suns, we're seeing two timelines. So
Okay.
when we see two suns, we're seeing the old and the new simultaneously. Remember I said that, like that shuddering kind of, here you are, there you are, here you are, there you
Yeah.
are. And as we evolve to be more present in the greater potential timeline, the one that feels good, the one that feels beautifully heart centered and aligned, um, the other one will gradually fade away. We won't see it anymore. So that was really clearly shown to me. I want to say something about our power to affect these things that comes it's a little bit of a different story, but it relates very much to our sun and our suns and the different versions, the different timelines. So there's knowledge about the relationship between plants and sentient beings, which plants are, but other sentient life forms like mammals, for example. Um, and there's evidence that uh, certain actions, I can't remember the exact story, but it's something, there was a story about an African plant where an animal would come along and chew on the stem of one of these plants, and then the whole group of plants in that species they would suddenly emit this like smell that the animal that was chewing didn't like. And so it would basically was like a, oh, we're getting gnawed on over here. Everybody emit your smell, right? And it's like, same thing with beautiful sweet scent and flowers opening. So, we hear birds singing in the morning. Well, there's evidence that correlates bird song with the opening of flowers. So we are literally programming our environment with our hearts. I'm going to say that again. We are programming our environment, which goes as far out as you can imagine, with our hearts.
Mhm.
So, if we want a beautiful home planet, we're going to start by sending love. And I actually did a reading for another person this week, and they were working with a healing energy that's coming out of their hands. And I was being shown that they were actually starting by directing that healing energy to the plant kingdom to inspire the plants to produce beautiful scent again. Because the message was that plants have become, because of our insensitivity,
Uh-huh.
they no longer produce scent because we don't care about
Right.
scent. We're insensitive. So,
Wow.
what we care about, we create.
Wow. That's incredible, really, isn't it?
It is. It's incredibly
And
simple,
so
too.
that's the thing. So yeah, and just to remember how much, creative power we have.
Mhm.
That's massive. And
Mm.
what a unique gift that she has to be able to do it, It's very cool. It's like you're not necessarily here to do these massive things, that's massive in itself.
Mm.
Curious, I have severe scent
And
allergies.
allergies.
Isn't that
Oh.
interesting? Great
Uh,
information about two sons. This is Ricky Green. Great information about that. He says,
mm,
um, "Thanks for sharing this with us."
mm,
Two timelines. I
yeah.
love that. I'm really so much curious about those two timelines and what that means
Mhm.
for us and all that sort of thing, and how to make sure I'm on the good timeline. I suppose if it feels right and you're
It's
following.
gonna feel you're gonna feel it, Sue. You're gonna feel it. It's like,
Well, I know when I'm off. I'll tell you that much.
and interesting, right? We're back to the little hobbits again. Like, we can say, "Oh, well, they just sit around and smoke their whatever their stuff is, and their weed in their pipes, and eat first, second, and third breakfast and all that kind of stuff, and, they're really guided by their stomachs and everything." However, like, that's when we laugh at that part of us, right? Oh, we indulge at Christmas and we're
Yeah.
so easily sort of led around by these bodies that have all these, like, you know, whatever cravings for things and strange tendencies and whatever. Um, However, there's something about, they also have a tremendous amount of wisdom. And I feel like especially they have
Mm.
that when they are in a more natural environment. When they're in a fairly artificial environment, all of that shuts down.
Yeah.
So, and when I say a natural environment, I'm meaning not only the physical, like being in nature or close to your food, your water, and all of that
Yep.
relationship stuff, but I'm also meaning a natural human environment, meaning one that isn't based in the frequency of power dominance. So let's say when we think about original cultures all over the world, which lived a much more simple life that wasn't as, I mean, there's evidence that most of them lived in egalitarian models, which means they shared everything. And when they're in that frequency, there's a lot of love, there's a lot of safety, There's a lot of meaningful connection, heart connection,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
that's a natural environment for humans. What we've been living in.
Like an interdependency as opposed to a codependency.
Yes,
Mhm,
exactly.
mhm.
So what we've been, and a lot of joy, a lot of celebration. I remember when I was an anthropology student way back like 30 odd years ago in first year anthropology, and there was these studies done on the so-called primitive people that were still around back in the, 60s and 70s in some parts of remote Africa or wherever.
Yep,
And they were measuring how much time and energy they spent working to sustain their life. Like
yep,
hunting, gathering, making pots, weaving baskets, making clothes, doing all these things.
yep.
And interestingly, with Three of
Not
Cups,
that much, right?
it was about 30% of what we spend.
Yep.
So that means they had 70% more time to enjoy life, to share, to tell stories, to play games.
Yes.
So what
And
are we
they only
doing?
had like
We don't
one.
even have a day a year anymore to play games. There's nothing. Like even in the Middle Ages when we're so like, oh, those poor people living in the Dark Ages. Well, at least they had like 10-day, holidays.
Right. We don't even afford ourselves that now. We're
Nothing.
running like crazy.
Nothing. So,
Everybody's
it's
like, I
pretty
feel like in the
simple.
new earth paradigm, we're gonna slow it right down.
Oh my gosh. And they're saying, this is really exciting because I know we've all been going, how do we create a new relationship with abundance, prosperity, money,
Yep.
resources, whatever that's going to look like? How do we're all just like in this place of this is sucks, this sucks. Like
Yeah.
this just does not serve anybody. And we know that, like whatever the elite, the cabal, they've got it all sewn up supposedly with this particular system,
Yep.
and we're like, okay, this isn't working, or we've had enough of this. We've learned our lesson. We've explored what happens when you create power dominant, centralized authority, power dominant models.
Well, we did. We did.
And we're ready now to redistribute and spread into these new models, these new systems with our finances. So, what I'm being shown, interestingly enough, as a last little message here for everyone, is it comes back to this energy of joy and safety. Yeah, they're saying, what is safety? Okay. Um, yeah.
Right.
What is safety? Safety is when we feel that it's okay to celebrate and experience true joy and playfulness. Like safety and play go hand in hand.
Isn't
So,
that interesting? Because
yeah,
a child who is abused that doesn't feel safe can't get out there and play. They can't get out there and do that. They gotta control, they gotta hold in, they gotta make sure that they have an artificial feeling of safety. And then look at the artificial feeling of safety we had around just give me this. And then if I don't go outside and protect and prevent and
yeah,
I gotta work harder, I gotta build all of this how much to build in your bank or in your cupboards and make sure
mhm.
you're safe, right? Or that
So,
false feeling.
yes. And what they're saying is we're actually going to reverse the negative hold that has on our hearts. Basically, they're saying our hearts are being held ransom. Our
Oh,
hearts are being held ransom. And,
sure.
how
Because
do you
through
change
trauma,
that?
that's how they've kept
How
us,
do you
right?
Yeah, how do you change that? You literally take your heart back. You say, "You know what? Okay,
Mm,
you know, you're gonna crash the banks, you're gonna do this, but I'm going outside to play ball with my kid.
yeah.
I'm gonna sit down and play a board game with my family. I'm gonna build something so we can, have a jungle gym in the living room. I'm going to like we're going to play. We're going to play every day. We're going
I
to play
tell
more
you,
and more and more and more and more and
yeah.
more every day.
I
And
love
by
it. Yep,
doing that,
yep.
like I'm chilled all over. They're saying by
Yep.
doing that, we start to reverse that whole system. It backs away. They're going, the power dominant model backs away from our intentional play. Like there's something about, especially what's different now than in other times, right? What's
Yeah,
different?
it's so interesting, Oshana, because I've done like, in spiritual realms or whatever, like it would be like, whether you're doing singing bowls or this or that, and or yoga, and there was this seriousness that was so like
Mhm.
almost reprimanding, like it was when I was going to church. And then, I always started like doing breath work with games. And at Christmas, we played a bunch of games, and everyone just opened up and was like, that was so much fun. And you're like, yeah. And when I
Mhm.
was kayaking with grown ass adults sort of thing, we would be like, we'd play boats and we'd play on a wave. And I just sat there one day thinking, people just loved it so much. And it was like, because they're playing. It was just
Interesting.
fun.
Interesting. Interesting. We're going to close this off because play feels like it's going to be a really big topic in the months and years to come. Um, there's a whole pile of like the alternative perspective coming at me right now. One of them is, okay, interesting. They're saying play is the thing that has the power to change the whole system. It's metaphysically. And what's different between this and other times in history where
Right?
people were oppressed and they played games at home, and the bad guys still came and took them ransom and did terrible things to them and their families and took their land from them and so on. So you can say, well, how much good did the play do them? But
Right.
what's different
What's different?
is that they didn't know. They didn't know how many others were doing that. They
Oh,
didn't feel the collective shift.
right.
They felt their own, like holding their own little candle for dear life, but they didn't have the awareness we have now where we can tap in all over the planet and see how many of us are doing this. We can
Yeah,
organize literally international play dates where we all play on the same day, on the same hour. Like we can
right.
play
You
collectively,
know,
and that is different.
wow, I gotcha. Well, and because, with media too, right? You're watching like, oh, people are doing dance, and like, and families in their house were doing these fun songs, and it was like people
Yeah.
were
I
playing that,
mean,
and it
look
was,
at the
yep,
phenomena of TikTok, right?
yep,
Like
yep,
people dancing and playing, and then other people are inspired to do it. And it's like, oh, we're going to do that in our
yeah,
living room. We're going to share
yeah,
it with the world. Now, the last little piece of this is now we got the gaming play. So these kids that have been on their
yes,
games,
yes.
two things. First, children often play out their trauma.
Oh,
Right? So if you talk to a play therapist, a child that's been abused will often, like if it's been hit or something, it'll often take its doll and hit it.
right, of course.
We often need to get it out,
Yes,
to process, to externalize the trauma inside. So these kids that are playing these really violent games, I'm
yes,
not saying that we want to approve of this or we want it to carry on for long periods of time, but there's something going on where we needed to externalize and look at the ugliness of violence. And we are getting to the end of that. The
wow,
other piece that's really beautiful about the games is that where these kids are learning to game together virtually.
yes.
A lot of them do that.
Oh, yeah, yep.
It's a huge thing.
Mhm.
So, in a way, they've created a model that right now it's these violent video games, but that can turn into something else. They've created a kind of a template for sharing extensively, globally sharing their experience of play, and that can grow into something super
Wow.
healthy.
Wow, that's incredible.
Isn't
Well,
it? I mean,
well,
this is
something
this
good to
isn't
come
me.
out of that.
I've never had this thought in my life. This is all of you. This is all of you. I'm
Wow.
tapping
Because it's
into.
deeply concerning. I felt like watching these young boys, and my understanding from a book I read by a doctor who prescribed a lot of Ritalin and then stopped. He's like, boys used to go out there and need that visual, spatial, go shoot rabbits and do those sorts of things, and the vibrancy of all of that. And now it's in a virtual space, right? And so they're getting that because it's not outside, right? So it brought them in.
Mhm.
So that's sort of interesting. So, but the fact that that can actually lead into something that's good is amazing.
We have the opportunity, and this is part of what I was saying at the beginning about whoever you've tuned into and felt and found inspiration and meaning from in the past. You don't need to throw everything out. You just need to say, it's not it's almost like, I call it like the exciting edge, the juicy, enthusiastic, curious edge of your joy. If it's not in that place right now, that's okay. Just like, maybe the message coming through that person isn't quite in alignment anymore with our overall healing integrity,
Yeah,
but they can come in alignment again. It's okay. We don't need to like fix that. We just let that be and steer a little bit
yeah,
differently,
I like it. Yeah.
you
Not
know?
going to fix anymore. I was going to say, so Viktor Frankl, who survived the concentration camps, so there were
Mhm.
starving men, and he said they would give up a cigarette or food as an opportunity to go and do theater and do plays for one another when they were starving. And if you could understand the
Boom.
psychology behind that, they were like, okay, when you're starving. And that's incredible, isn't it?
Boom. I mean, and that's what's deep, deep. Like, that's, we talk about the hobbits, but even
Deep
below
in the
that, I'm
psyche,
saying when those
right?
hobbits don't have food, they still are going to play. They're still going to play and, you know, make music and talk about food, right? That's what it was like,
Yeah.
right?
It's like when they're partying at the bottom of the Titanic and they're dancing and having a good time and
Well,
everything.
I mean, people
Well,
say, okay, that's horrible. That's so horrible. How could they do that? What an awful thing to do. We don't know. We don't know what it would feel like to
yeah,
be at that juncture and be like, this is
yeah,
the greatest gift I can give to this, to my life. This is how I want to go out. I want to go out like this. I don't want to go out screaming and hanging on so this is
choice, right? Like
it's
that's
a
our
choice.
choice. So
And
Sir just wants to know if Q, what does Source want us to know for 2024?
yeah, so that's a big question, and we're pretty much at
Hmm.
time.
Right?
And next week, we're going to be basically jumping into the beginning of 2024. So let's talk about that. And I'm going to actually do a forecast, an annual forecast I do every
I love
year,
it.
big picture layout. That'll be on my channel.
I look
So
forward to that.
look forward to that. That's going to be, I think I'm going to put it out on the 2nd or 3rd. I got a couple of days off there. So yeah.
I was just going to say here, as Charlotte, that Laura says, it feels like something opens up the Akash for everyone, that the past can be healed in the present and future.
So
Really
true. So
beautiful.
true. So
Yeah,
true.
that's
And, my understanding, and especially around these powerful junctures of the year, like solstice and equinoxes, is that we feel the connection. We feel that past and future. We feel ourselves kind of
yeah.
like affecting it. Like, I actually believe that we can change the past.
Yes, I thought
And
so
change.
too, because it's the meaning we put towards it, and there were a million probabilities.
Yeah,
So
the,
that
the
was the probability you
timelines
remember, right?
The timelines go both ways. They go forward and
Right.
back.
Yes.
I know.
That's so good. Right on. I love to talk more about that. That's so
Yeah,
fascinating.
let's talk about that
I
next
love it.
week.
I love it. I love it. Okay, we'll hold that for next time. Thank you. And says thank you, Ashella and Sue. Thank you, ladies. Oh,
Mhm.
beautiful. Thanks, everybody. Powerful messages. Play.
Play. I mean, it sounds so small and
Oh,
simple,
yeah.
but small and simple is how we're going to take back our hearts and heal
Yes.
this planet and heal the universe. Yeah.
Agreed. Much love.
Blessings, everybody. Have a beautiful week. See you next time.